Hey there. It's kind of appropriate that I've redone this video like 5 times already, because each time I try to do it, I tell myself, that's wrong, it's not right, and all of these things because I'm not good enough, and why would anybody listen to me about this? And that's actually what this video is about today. We are going to be talking about imposter syndrome. And I'm Kim Long. I'm with Docha Psychological Services in Spruce Grove, Alberta. And as always, this video is meant for educational purposes only. It doesn't constitute a therapeutic relationship, and it is a representation of my perspective on this. It doesn't necessarily represent others in the field. And if you have any questions or concerns and want to follow up about this video, I believe you can write comments in the section below, or you can give us a shout at our office at 780-446-0300. But in the meantime, enough avoiding. I'm going to talk about imposter syndrome, which is something that hits pretty close to my heart. And I think it does for a lot of people. And it's one of those things that we just don't talk about. Like it's out there in the ether quite commonly, but it's not a diagnosable thing. And I think we all feel it. We just don't like to talk about it. So what is imposter syndrome? In general, it is this feeling that you're going to be found out, that somehow you don't measure up, that you're not going to be able to be as successful as you were in the past, or that somehow they're going to figure out that you really suck at what it is that you're trying to do. And that's a horrible feeling. So we try to avoid that. And there are actually pros and cons to this concept. An example of a pro is that it makes you be really thorough. Like it makes you dot all the I's and cross your T's to make sure that you aren't screwing up. The other thing is that it can push you to grow by making you recognize, hey, I don't know everything. And so I can learn that information. But where imposter syndrome can really bite you in the butt is where it leads to anxiety or depression, or where it makes you withdraw from people, or keeps you from being involved in close relationships because you're hiding aspects of yourself from the person or people because you're afraid of being found out. So, okay, that's great, but what do you do? Okay. And please know these are things that I try to practice myself, and I fully acknowledge they don't always work. Sometimes that imposter syndrome grabs hold and just chokes you. But at least these are some ideas to help you get out of that chokehold. And of course, I'm checking my notes because feeling a little bit of it today, but whatever. Dotting your I's, crossing your T's. So the first thing that you can do is engage in what's called positive psychology. And this is positive psychology specifically around cognitive disputations. And this is the work of Martin Seligman. He used to be the president of the American Psychological Association. And cognitive disputation is kind of fun, but challenging to do. So one of the first things that you do is you look for evidence. And what you're trying to do is look for evidence to prove the negative thought, or you're looking for evidence to disprove the negative thought. So if I'm thinking, for example, this person doesn't like me, well, our brains can think of so many reasons why, as proof of why this person doesn't like me. And it can get to the point where it's a little ridiculous and you end up laughing at it. And then that's one way that it refutes the thought. But you can also look for reasons that make that thought not true, right? So what are all the reasons that this person does like me? Another part of cognitive disputation is looking for alternatives. What are all the other reasons that could be given for this person maybe not saying hi to you today? Or when you think of it in terms of incompetence, what could be all of the other reasons that you weren't chosen to do something, or things of that nature. And you can come up with some really crazy ones. The funnier the better, actually, because again, that role of humor helps to diffuse the emotion that goes along with the feeling of imposter syndrome, which can be fear, sadness, shame, all of those things. Then the next piece of it, as I knock things on the ground, the next piece of it is to consider, what is the worst case scenario? What are the actual implications of whatever it is that you're thinking? So let's say you get found out as an imposter. What's the worst thing that could happen? Well, the worst thing that could happen is you could lose your job. All right, but chances are you'll find another one, right? Because you're a smart cookie. It's usually people that are high achievers that feel this imposter syndrome. So chances are you're going to be okay. And then the last part of it is to ask yourself, is this thought helpful? I struggle with that part of it, honestly, because I can say, yeah, this thought isn't helpful, but it doesn't necessarily stop it for me. But that's my own stuff. Another way that you can refute imposter syndrome or fight against it is to share how you're feeling with a trusted other. You want to be careful with that because you don't want to necessarily share it with people who believe that they're in competition with you. That wouldn't be so great. But you do want to share it with people who have your best interests at heart and want to build you up. This invites them to either help you refute it, or it helps you kind of minimize the shame that you're feeling about it. Because the antidote to shame, as Brene Brown would say, is making your shame public. Okay, so another thing that you can do is share and celebrate your successes. We do not do enough of this. If we're doing something amazing, why aren't we stopping to celebrate that? We're so quick to move on to the next thing that we almost don't even notice when we've done something really well. So yeah, stop, pause, celebrate, share it with other people so that it makes you make that success external rather than just keeping it a secret in your head. And along with that, you want to share your quote unquote failures. I'm not big on that word because to me, you only fail if you don't get back up off your knees later. It doesn't mean that you still continue on the same path, but maybe you've learned something that causes you to make different decisions. But either way, it's either a learning opportunity or you're getting back up onto your feet. So it's not really a failure. But to minimize shame, you want to share that failure. And it also creates that community where others can share their struggles with you as well, which makes you feel less alone. And in a way that involves another strategy, which is reframing it, right? So the reframe was where I said, it's not a failure if you get back up off your knees and it's a learning opportunity. Those are all reframes, which makes the sting of the word failure, because there's such a negative connotation around it, it takes that away and it becomes less hurtful to us, which goes to the next point, which is, hey, I don't know, be gentle with yourself. A lot of times imposter syndrome comes up because we're being challenged. We're learning something new and we don't feel confident in it yet. And we become afraid that, oh, if I don't look confident right away, if I don't nail this right away, they're going to recognize that I don't have the skills to do this and then I'm done. Well, hang on. As with anybody who learns, you're probably going to screw it up a couple times and maybe not even majorly. So be gentle with yourself. Stop beating yourself up. We do enough of that. Goes back to celebrating successes. Gosh darn it. Be kind to yourself. That self-compassion is really important. And then recognize the patterns of that, or rather recognize the patterns of imposter syndrome, how they typically show up when we are challenging ourselves. So by recognizing the pattern of, hey, wait a minute, this only really shows up when I'm trying to learn something new, or this only shows up when I'm really tired and feeling extra vulnerable. Okay, Well, if it only shows up during those times, is it even valid? So nurture yourself. Take those times to recognize something in me is hurting and it's being twisted in my brain to me not being good enough, or I'm going to be found out, or which is a fear of rejection, right? Well, okay, but am I really that bad? So those are all kind of patterns. So I'm going to go through them really quick again, and I know that this video is quite long, so thank you for hanging in with me on this. You want to use cognitive disputations, which is from positive psychology. Look up Martin Seligman's work. You want to share your feelings with trusted others. You want to share and celebrate your successes. You also want to share and reframe struggles, because I really don't like that word, failures. You also want to be really gentle with yourself and recognize those patterns when imposter syndrome shows up so that you can normalize it for yourself, and then as a result, be gentle with yourself. So that was a lot of information. Thank you so much for sticking with me. I really appreciate it. And for all of you out there that are maybe feeling like you're a fraud, I just invite you to look at all the ways that you are absolutely wonderful, because it's in there, and you wouldn't have gotten to where you've gotten already if there wasn't something really special about you. Okay? So in the meantime, it's Kim with Doja Psychological Services in Spruce Grove, Alberta, and please take care of yourself. I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.